What if I told you there is a completely normal-looking guy, your average next-door neighbor type, who had over 100 people's most personal belongings stored in his basement and a rented storage unit, and was posting photos of them on Instagram like it was an Etsy shop? No fiction, no horror movie. This actually happened in Pennsylvania in 2025. And the part that will genuinely break your brain, for a long time, what he was doing was completely and totally legal. His name is Jonathan. He's 31 years old. He lives in Pennsylvania, and he figured out the most unhinged side hustle in American history. Stay right there, because this story goes places you were absolutely not ready for. So let me paint you a picture of Jonathan before all of this. Regular guy, works warehouse shifts, double shifts actually, barely covering his rent every month. And whatever energy he has left after that goes straight into his real passion, his heavy metal band. Now, here is the problem. Being in a band is expensive. Music videos cost money, traveling to shows costs money, equipment costs money. And Jonathan is scraping the bottom of the barrel every single month with nothing left over. So he's stressed, he's broke, he's stuck. And then, one day, around 2023, he meets a guy who flips his entire world upside down. This guy's name is JP, and JP is a very particular kind of businessman. See, JP's whole thing is that he sources and flips what you might call rare historical collectibles on the underground market. We are talking antique bones, old skulls, full sets of human remains sourced from people who are no longer in a position to object. And then he resells them for serious money to collectors, researchers, and people who are just deeply, deeply unusual. And apparently there is a whole community of people out there willing to pay for this stuff. Jonathan hears all of this, and something lights up in his brain. A light bulb goes on. A very dark, very questionable light bulb, but a light bulb nonetheless. He wants in on this business immediately. Now, here's the one problem. Getting into this business the normal way requires startup money. You need funds to source your inventory. And Jonathan, as we've established, is completely broke. So he does what any creative entrepreneur would do in this situation. He decides to cut out the middleman entirely. Instead of purchasing his inventory the traditional way, Jonathan is going to go straight to the source and help himself. No purchasing, no middlemen, no asking anyone anything. Just him, the knight, and a crowbar. And he already knows exactly where to go. Not far from where Jonathan lives, there is a massive historic cemetery. One of those beautiful old ones. Stone architecture, iron gates, marble everywhere. Very old, very prestigious, and apparently very light on security. So one night, Jonathan shows up with a crowbar and gets to work. And instead of doing things the hard way, spending hours digging through the ground, Jonathan works smarter. He targets the above-ground mausoleums first, the ones where you just pry a marble slab out of place and the inventory is right there waiting for you. He pries open a couple, fills his bag, walks out. Plan works perfectly. But Jonathan immediately thinks bigger. He heads to the hardware store, shoplifts a headlamp, gloves, a metal cutting wheel, and a few other tools, and then he goes back to that cemetery, again and again and again. One night he hits an underground vault. Another night he literally ropes himself 10 feet down into a stone crypt to get to the remains stored deeper inside. Every single time he gets home, everything goes straight into his basement, his very own personal warehouse of historical collectibles, growing bigger every week. Now, here is the part I need you to stay for, because what Jonathan does next is take this entire operation completely public. Instagram, Facebook, his real name, his real face, out in the open for the whole internet to see. And for a while, absolutely nobody can legally do a single thing to stop him. I am not joking. Stay with me. So Jonathan now has a basement packed with inventory, and he needs customers. And here is where Pennsylvania law comes in and completely loses its mind. In the state of Pennsylvania, it is actually not illegal to buy or sell human remains. Apparently, this is one of those things lawmakers just never got around to addressing, because who on earth would ever need a law about this? So Jonathan is completely free to sell this stuff online, openly, publicly, with his face attached. He starts posting on Instagram photos of actual skulls, photos of himself with skulls, captions about his collector lifestyle. He joins a Facebook group, a real group that still exists to this day, called the Human Bones and Skull Selling Group. Just sitting there on Facebook, public, joinable, completely real. And Jonathan goes full influencer with it. He's posting constantly, building a following, cultivating this whole dark, mysterious persona online. At one point, he writes in a caption that he's living alone in the mountains, riding a Harley and moving rare collectibles. Except he's not living in the mountains. He's in a rented house in a regular suburban neighborhood, just like every other influencer, selling a lifestyle that doesn't actually exist. Meanwhile, a full set of human remains can go for up to $7,000 on the underground market, and by this point, Jonathan has over 100 complete or partial sets stored in his basement and storage unit, including remains going all the way back to a woman who passed away in 1869. 150 years of history, listed for sale on the internet. But here is where Jonathan makes the classic mistake that every person who thinks they've found the perfect plan eventually makes. He gets comfortable, he gets cocky, and he starts showing people. One day in 2025, 2 family members come to visit his house, and for reasons that honestly no rational person can explain, Jonathan takes them downstairs and shows them everything. Now these 2 are clearly shaken up, but for whatever reason, probably fear, neither of them goes directly to the police. They just start talking, telling people what they saw, and eventually one of those people picks up the phone and calls law enforcement. Hey, just so you know, apparently this guy Jonathan has a basement full of human remains. Thought you should know. Police start investigating immediately. First thing they do, pull up his Instagram, and there it is, skulls everywhere. His whole personality publicly documented for the world to see. They pull his phone records, his vehicle history, and they can place him at that cemetery multiple times over multiple years. Now, here's the legal twist. Pennsylvania might say buying and selling human remains is perfectly fine, but it absolutely has laws against robbing graves from a protected historic site. So police do what good investigators do. They stake out the cemetery one night. And sure enough, there's Jonathan, walking back to his car through the dark, carrying a burlap bag full of freshly collected inventory like it's just another Tuesday evening. Officers move in, and Jonathan, to his credit, doesn't even try to run or lie. He confesses on the spot, admits to everything, the cemetery visits, the collecting, the online selling, all of it. Handcuffs click, story over. Well, almost. Police search the house and the storage unit and find over 100 full or partial sets of human remains just sitting there, cataloged, like the world's most disturbing antique shop. Now here's the wild ending. As of right now, Jonathan has confessed and everything has been found, but he hasn't actually gone to trial yet, which means technically and legally all of this is still alleged. The graveyard influencer is out there somewhere right now waiting for his court date, probably missing his Instagram engagement. So here's my question for you. When this man finally stands in front of a judge, what do you think the sentence should be? Because Pennsylvania law is going to have a very interesting time working this one out. Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely read every single one. If this story had your jaw on the floor from start to finish, hit that like button right now. It costs you nothing, and it helps more people find this channel. Share it with someone who won't believe it's real, and subscribe so you never miss the next story, because I promise you it is every bit as wild as this one. See you there.